We are recording finally after a year of waiting.
I love that face. Well, hello, everybody. I am Tim from
Um,
Las Vegas.
and I'm Sam from the Pacific Northwest. Welcome to the podcast.
That's right. Here we are with another episode of the Western Contingent
Yes,
out
sir.
here I am in beautiful, sunny, just absolutely fantastic weather, Las Vegas. It is spectacular. How about you up
Yeah.
there?
You trying to rub it in like we got bad weather up here. We ain't got bad weather.
Oh, do you?
We're
Yeah.
not on the west side of the mountains where they get rain every day. We are
Uh-huh.
on the east side of the mountains, and it is beautiful weather. We took a drive to uh, a buddy of mine's house and his wife up in Okanagan County, and it's about a 2 hour drive, and we had the sunroof back, windows down, eastbound and down. It wasn't eastbound; it was north basically, but it was a beautiful drive, man.
Nice.
Just a few clouds in the sky. It was on Memorial Day. We actually drove past a cemetery that was doing a ceremony, a 21 gun salute, and it was picturesque. That's the best way to put it. The drive up there, and then we had a great day of gaming with them, and the drive back was less beautiful because it was dusk, but it was still cool. Still
Right.
a great time. So our weather up here is a okay right now. It's about to get. Let's see. On Saturday the high was 60. On Monday the high was 80, and that's starting to carry. So spring is definitely starting to give way to summer, but that's to be expected.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's the same down here. I mean, I think it was 94 yesterday or something down here. They got up to, which is, yeah, that's just kind of standard. But the good news,
But
I
it's a
haven't told.
dry heat.
Yeah, but it's a dry heat. I know. I haven't told you this. I'm actually not going to be here for the next 2 weeks because what I'm looking forward to is I'm going back to this fitness resort in Utah. So I'll be looking forward to the marvelous hikes and stuff we do out in all the
Cool.
trails up there. So yeah, this beautiful weather.
All
Um,
right.
I hope it maintains so I can enjoy the scenery and the hiking. So
Yeah, that'll be cool. That
yeah.
that's that Utah's got some pretty country.
Oh,
Um, I think
it's fantastic.
I think the one place that I've only driven through that I really want to go back to visit is Moab. Moab, Utah has some beautiful places in and around it, and I want to go back.
Yeah,
But the scenery, the red clay and the red rocks, and it's just so, I don't know, it's so striking.
it
It's
is.
so
Yeah.
visually appealing, I guess, and that's why I'd love to go back there.
And you know the thing about it is that's so true, right? Because I grew up in New England in the Northeast, and I'm used to woods and trees and hills and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But when I was half my freshman year in high school and all of my sophomore year, we moved out to Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is the
Ah,
desert, and
yeah.
I just hated it, right? Because it was just the desert. But here's the thing, like what we're talking about with Utah and the trails and the red rocks and the cliffs and all that. That's if that was people's first impression of a desert, then they would be like, "Oh, the desert's fantastic. It's marvelous. It's
Right.
beautiful." But if you just
Yeah.
see like flat, like plain brown desert, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not quite the same.
No, it's not. It isn't at all. And it is all about perspective, right?
Yeah.
And that's what the vacationing and the marketing companies are good at, right? They take what could possibly be a swine, and they dress it up pretty stinking well to make you think that you want to go there. But I mean, I've never seen any like promotional videos or anything about that like Moab. I've only driven through it, and of course the town is like everywhere USA almost, but the landscape around it is just so breathtaking. So
It is. And just
I
imagine
really
like
want.
the people who, moving west, right, back a couple hundred years ago.
Mhm.
Imagine like seeing that for the first time. It really does look like an
Yeah,
alien landscape, a lot of that stuff, right?
it does.
They
Yeah,
must have
it's
been like,
like.
what is this?
Yeah, nothing you've ever seen before.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good. How about you been playing any good games recently?
Yeah, absolutely. We have, like I said, we went to a buddy's house for Memorial Day, and we played some games there. And the Saturday before that, we hosted a well, I mean, at this point, it was just last Saturday. We hosted a game event at our church, so we've had pretty good opportunity to play more than a few games. So the first one I think I want to talk about is I'll just go ahead and say this. I'm planning on doing a live review later on today after this afternoon, and but it's for the two expansions for Heat, Heavy Rains, and Tunnel Vision.
Okay.
Um, and I got tunnel vision in just last week, and then we gave it a go on Saturday at the game day at church. And then on the following Monday, we went up to my buddy's house and we played the. See, did I do that backwards? I think we did. No, we did Heavy Rains on Saturday, and then we did Tunnel Vision on Monday. And we used the map that has the new rules to it on both of them, and it's pretty interesting. I don't know how much my initial impression is good or bad about it. I'm planning on playing it again solo before my review this afternoon after we get done here. But the thing about expansions, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later when we get into the thing. But the thing about expansions is that I love it when expansions give you simply more to do with the base game that you already enjoy, and they don't seek to try to flip flop the game and give you something new and haha, you didn't see that coming. I don't want to be surprised with an expansion, and neither of these expansions surprised me in a bad way. I want more of what I was expecting. I want to experience what, for Heat it's a racing game, so I want to experience, at least in a very minuscule way, what drivers would experience on the track, and that's exactly what these expansions do. um so I really enjoyed both of the expansions. I think it's great that they are expanding the game and making it a little bit more like, as far as content is concerned, Formula D, where you have, it feels like, because I know there's a lot out there that I don't have. It feels like there's hundreds of maps for Formula Day, and right now you've basically got, let's see, the base game came with I think two double sideds, and then you got a double sided map in both the expansions. So there's four double sided maps, which means there's eight different tracks that you can go through. I think that's cool. You're adding a racer with both of the expansions. You're adding more sponsored. Uh, uh, what do you call them? Things that you can do to your car, upgrades for your cars, and those are just cards that you add into your deck. So it's all stuff that I would expect for an expansion for this kind of game to be, and I love that. I'm going to play it solo when we get done here, and a little bit more while I get ready to do the review today. But I've been enjoying. I enjoy Heat. It's one of my top 100 games, and the two expansions have only added to that, so it's good.
Okay, yeah, Heat has just always been okay for me.
Mhm.
It's kind of even one that, I would probably like if somebody said, "Hey, Tim, you want to play Heat?" And I'd be like, no thanks. I'll go find something else to play." I mean, I
Wow.
don't know, but I know people love it, right? At
Mhm.
every convention I'm at, no matter what it is, you always see Heat being played several times, right? And
Yeah.
usually at the full complement. So I know people love it. I know
Yeah.
people enjoy it. They have a great time, and it gets played a lot. It's just not a
Yeah.
game for me.
Well, I think it might. I don't know. I think I'm not going to try to speak for you, but I think some of the reason why some people might might be. I mean, a lot of people really love it, as you said, but if you might be turned off because it's a racing game, but really, it's it's a hand management game. You're really that is the core mechanism of the game. It's not racing per se. Yes, you are trying to get around the track first. I understand that, but knowing how to manage your hand is really where you win or lose the game. And knowing when to take heat, when to push the engine a little bit more, and kind of get ahead. That's where you can win or lose the game. And it does have, I mean, it's a deck of cards, so it does have that luck of the draw. You know, there are going
Yeah.
to be some hands where you just don't get the cards that you really need to to keep your pedal down to the metal. I really enjoy it. Hand management is one of my favorite mechanisms. I'm not very good at it always, but I enjoy it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's good. Well, one of the games that I played this past week, this is my third time playing this game, I believe, and I
Mhm.
really enjoy it. It's called Pilgrim, and
Hmm.
it's a Spielworks game. And I had never heard about it until I played it the first time, a few months ago. But one of my game groups that I play with, it's his game, Chris. He pulled it out again, and it's just a game I really, really enjoy.
Hmm.
It's a worker placement game, but it's unique in the fact that it's sort of like it feels sort of like a pick up and deliver, but you're not really picking up and delivering anything. But just to give you a brief example, like say you have 5 workers in the city, or
Yeah.
pilgrims, whatever they are, you pick them up and you have to go down the river path and you drop one off on each part of the path, say, okay?
Yeah.
Then after that, you get to pick anywhere one of your workers is and do that action.
Hmm.
If you have majority in that area, of course, you get a better action. If you're tied or have minority, you get less action. But then after that action, you pick it up and you put it back in the city. So with that
Hmm.
being said, if you're following, you have other workers still left out. So that way you can build up, more workers in certain spots to give you majority if you're fighting and over that, all that kind of stuff, and blah blah. So that is a really unique aspect, and the way the turn marker works around where it activates buildings and you can build roads. It's just got a really lot of nice, neat mechanisms
Yeah.
and parts of the game that really speak to me, and I really enjoy the game. But it's one of those kind of games I've only ever heard about it or ever seen it played when I'm playing it. Um, and it really strikes me unusual about games like that, right? And again, it's not like, when I go to a convention or conventions, I see every game out or whatever.
Sure.
But
Right.
still, it just that always surprises me when I enjoy a game and I really like a game that I'm playing, and I'm like, I've never seen anybody else ever play it or talk about it?
Yeah. Nobody's heard about it or anything like that. Yeah. I mean, that blows my mind as well. And I was just talking to we had city group at our house last night, and I was talking to one of the questions I get asked often with people from church. What do you do for a living? And when I tell them what I do, they're like they're like low key sus and low key mildly interested, and because they're like, what does that mean? And so our hobby or our job or the thing that we do for a living in the industry is the industry's pumping out 4 to 5,000 games a year.
That's true.
And it's like nobody can play that many games
Right.
and keep up with everything that's come out. I had a guy in my city group last night ask me a question. He said, "So I saw this video that you posted today, and it belongs in a museum over on the flip side." And he said, what's that all about?" And I was like, "Well, we take a day and we focus on older games because most of the content creators that are out there, they're talking about new games, brand new games, or games that haven't even come out yet because that's what people flock to." And I explained that to him. And so I said, "But there's so many games out there that we want to focus on some of those other games that are really good that
Yep.
people may not have ever heard about or have forgotten about." And so that's absolutely true. Like I've never heard of Pilgrim before.
Yeah.
And the game's only 3 years old. So it's like it's not even I have an arbitrary number of years being old to be able to be covered on It Belongs in a Museum, which is 5 years or older. And so Pilgrim isn't even old enough for my arbitrary cutoff time for It Belongs in a Museum, and I've never even heard of it before.
Yeah.
And it looks like a really neat game.
It really is, and it's again, it's one of those kind of things, where you say like, oh man, it's unfortunate that this game's flying under the radar. More
Yeah,
people should know about this game. More people should play
right.
this game. But yeah, it's just amazing how there are so many games like that just slip by.
I'm
You know?
curious. I'm curious. How did that fund? It did go on GameFound.
Yes, yes, it did.
Yeah, it was on GameFound, but
And also the
that's
thing, to be fair, Spielworks doesn't put out a lot of copies. Um,
okay.
like when they print games, I think they may do like 500, 1,000 or something. I mean, it's not a whole lot of copies out there when Spielwork prints games.
Yeah,
So that's one factor. There's not a lot of them out there in the wild, using
sure.
that expression.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah,
Smaller publisher. Yeah.
what's that?
Smaller publisher, so I mean, they're not dinky, I get
Right,
it,
right,
but
right, right.
a smaller publisher putting out fewer copies, you're not gonna hear about it probably.
Yeah, but it's a very enjoyable game. I suggest anybody who likes, especially if you like worker placement with a unique take on worker placement,
Yeah.
I highly recommend you check out Pilgrim.
I will say this though, it is a worker placement game, but it's a 3.59 complexity out of 5 on the Geek. So it's a heavier worker placement game.
Okay.
Well, worker placement has a wide spectrum of games.
True, true.
And you have really light worker placement games, you have midweight worker placement games.
Right.
Just from the complexity rating that's on the Geek, this is on the heavier side of worker placement games. So that's just something that I like to mention every once in a while, just so that people have an idea of what to expect
Right,
if they
right.
do get their hands on a copy of it.
The other game I got to play this past week is I brought to both a group on Sunday and a group on Monday that I play with, and this is an older one, of course. And that was Machi Koro.
Oh,
Now,
cool.
this was the very first. Actually, I don't have it here. I don't know where I put it, but it has Japanese on the cover. And I first got it. I got a free copy at Gamma. It has been whenever it wasn't even printed in English yet. They
Yeah.
had a
Oh.
inside rules, but the cover is in Japanese and all that kind of stuff. And it was given to me at Gamma. And I was like, this game is going to be the next Monopoly. I thought it
Hmm.
was going to be massive. It was going to be huge because the gameplay is very similar to Monopoly. Like for people who, if that's the only sort of game they've played or they grew up with or they know, because you
Yeah.
you still get to roll the dice and
Yeah.
you're buying properties. So
Yeah.
it's got the same kind of feel. And it's just quick, it's easy to learn. It's literally like a 2-minute explanation, right? And all of the instructions are right there on the card. Like it tells you
Mhm.
what happens when you roll the dice.
Mhm.
And unlike Monopoly, which is really good about Machikoro, is you have to be engaged on everybody's turn, right?
Sure.
Because you can always earn something on somebody else's dice roll. And the both groups had never one group, only one person had played it, another group neither one of them had played it, and they just loved it. The one group that they're sort of my friends, they're sort of the lighter gamers. They're the ones I've gotten into the hobby, so now they
Mhm.
play like Russian Railroads and Millie Fiore Smartphone, Raj the Ganges, kind of at that level.
Yeah.
3 times in a row we played it. They just loved. They were like, "Oh, let's play this again. Let's play this again. Let's play this again." And then my other group, who I play like the heavier games, it's like Pilgrim and stuff. I said, "Hey, let me just show you this quick game because we always like to play, a couple of heavy games and like a lighter game." And they were
Mhm.
like, "Wow, this is fantastic! I can't believe I've never played this. It's just so light and easy." And it's just it, I don't know how to blame. Like I know I've talked about this before. Like when I was working with Yellow with King of Tokyo, how it just never got to the point where I thought it should have gotten
Yeah.
as sort of quote unquote the next Monopoly. And Machi Koro to me is in that same vein where it should have been so much more popular than it ever turned out to be. And that
Yeah.
sort of brings us into the topics we want to talk about like expansions and sequels and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Because with Machi Koro, They did come out. I think it was called Bright Lights Big City or something like that.
Yeah.
Was the second version of Machikoro. And I know I've said this before, like games like Soro when they come out with what was it, Rise of the Phoenix or Soro the Seas or something like that, and blah blah blah, whatever.
Mhm.
And some of those games to me are just so good, simple, straightforward that adding an expansion or coming out with a sequel, there's just no need. In my
Huh.
opinion, you know what I mean,
Sure.
because they're perfectly fine how they are, and it
Yeah.
just takes away, like people, use that term elegant. It takes away sometimes the elegance of the game and the
Yeah.
feel, and it just
Yeah.
muddies it up.
Yep. I totally get that. Well, I mean, just to kind of provide a little bit more of a segue into that, what we are talking about today is we started talking about this last week with that real brief excerpt about sequels and
Correct.
how our sequels, there are some sequels that are like crap. Oh my gosh, I can't believe they wasted the money on that movie. Other sequels are like, wow, this is amazing. And so that kind of we want to kind of blossom that into a discussion about expansions and what kind of expansions help a game, what kind of expansions hurt a game. We could even, if we're talking about sequels and expansions, we could also throw in their second editions as well. When is a second edition necessary? Are second editions necessary? Should you just let sleeping dogs lie and move on and make something else? That kind of thing. So my my I guess contention, it's not really a contention, but my thing last week was that there are a lot of sequels out there that I think are just as good or better than their original installment in whatever the series is. And so I guess first of all, we should kind of give a definition, I guess, maybe of what a sequel is, because last week we seemed to have a little bit of disagreement, or maybe just a difference in opinion on what a sequel is. So the and again, this is not highly researched. I just literally typed in the word sequel in Google, and this is what it brought up. A published, broadcast, or recorded work that continues the story or develops the theme of an earlier one. So, for example, and this is the example that they give, we'll just start. This is a baseline, dude. This is a baseline, but Home Alone, the Home Alone series. Is Home Alone 2 just as good or better than Home Alone, the original?
Yeah. Okay. But before you get into that question,
Okay,
again, I think we need to define, like you said, the terms of sequel, right? So,
I just
with
did.
that, right. However, but what I'm saying is just to make it clear, because when you said a continuation of the story, right? Wasn't that part of
Mhm.
the definition?
Yes, but it was not the entirety of it. It says that continues the story or develops the theme of an earlier one.
Okay, but okay, so here's what I'm talking about. Why we just got to make sure we have it clarified. Okay,
Sure.
like when you said like the Star Wars thing,
Mhm.
you brought up how the second one was a sequel or whatever, and I'm like, well, to me, it isn't, right? Because it was written together. So it wasn't, it's not a continuation of the story because it's one story, but just shown in different parts. So it wasn't like, you see what I'm saying? So I just want to make sure we're clear on that. Like Home
Okay.
Alone, it wasn't like it wasn't Home Alone 1, 2, and 3 were written at once and they split it up. Home Alone 2, again, and I'm just, kind of just talking without
Yeah,
100% knowledge, was only
right.
developed because of the success of Home Alone 1. So to me,
Sure.
that sort of is a true sequel because it wasn't written at once as one story. Like, for example, Lord of the Rings, right? Like
Yeah.
the 2 and the 3, they're not sequels. It's a story that was written, but they were broken up into 3 parts. You see what I'm saying? So I just want to make sure we're clear on that part. What we're talking about is a sequel.
Right. And that's okay. I think that's a semantical argument, and that's probably what this is. So I'm not so so much against that. But when you have a second part of a story, that is by definition continuing that story. It doesn't have to be written at a different time in order for it to be considered a sequel. It is literally the second part or continuation, or to follow, third part or third continuation of that story. So drawing the line between sequel or not being the time at which they are written seems overt, in my
No, no, no,
opinion.
no. But I'm not necessarily talking about the time they're written. I'm more or less talking about the intent, right? And what I mean,
Well,
for
yeah,
example, like, well, what I mean, for example, like use the Bible, right? You know about the Bible.
sure.
Each chapter isn't a sequel. It's one story,
No,
and they're all parts of the story, right? It's and so what I mean, like for example, Home Alone 2 you brought up, or Jaws
yeah,
2, or Back to
right,
the Future 2.
right.
Those were only written, or again, I'm not 100% sure on this. I'm just kind of for I don't know,
Yeah, yeah. It's
but
yeah.
because of the success of the first one. So
Mhm.
it wasn't written all as one. And so to me, that's when I say sequel, those are the kind of things I'm thinking of. It's like, oh, that was all that. So I'm just talking about intent, right? I
Okay, so
understand.
here's the question then that argument would raise. So you're saying that if episode 4 had bombed, that they would have went ahead and made Empire Strikes Back. And if Empire Strikes Back had bombed, they would have gone ahead and made Return of the Jedi as well. I don't think that would have happened. I think the success of one birthed the success of the
No,
second,
no, 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 no.
and so
No,
forth
no,
and so
no,
on.
no, no. You're incorrect. Wait, because you're talking about the movie, but the story was already written. See, this is what I'm
Right.
saying, Sam. So you're talking about producing the movie, but the story was already written.
But the
That's what
movie
that's the point I'm making.
but the movie has Empire Strikes Back is a sequel. Return of the Jedi is a sequel because it continues the story that began with a New Hope.
No, but
And
I'm talking.
that's why they called episodes 1, 2, and 3 prequels, because they came out before that story began. So I don't understand why we shouldn't call movies that have always been called sequels since they came out. Why do we have to stop calling them sequels? I don't
No,
understand that.
no, I'm not saying we should stop calling them. I'm just saying again, because we have different viewpoints of what a sequel is, right? Like to me,
Mm,
like Jaws 2 is like
a
when
sequel.
because yeah, what we were talking about is like a sequel is like mostly fails. Like we were saying, oh, that's what I said. I
Sure.
said the sequels usually aren't good because to me the intent they're usually money grabs. Jaws 2, Back to the Future 2, Home
Mm,
Alone 2, Freddy
mm,
and Nightmare on Elm Street 2, right? Those
sure.
are all like just for money grabs. The intent was just to make a sequel or a second one because of the success of the first. But again,
Right.
like I said, to me, Lord of the Rings or Empire Strikes Back, Harry Potter, things like this were stories that were written, and
Mhm.
like the second, third. Again, you're right. It's kind of semantic thing. To me, just aren't to me is it's not a sequel. It's just part of the story. It's just a different book in the same story, much as the Bible. They're just different chapters or different books, but they're not a
Yeah.
sequel.
Well, uh, I think to call the Two Towers just another chapter in the book is I don't know. I guess I just have a more generalistic term,
Hmm.
a more acceptance, a more general acceptance of what a sequel is. In my opinion, a sequel is simply the second installment or the third installment or whatever first, second, third sequel after the original began that thing. So, Indiana Jones franchise, you have the original, which is Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then you have Temple of Doom was the sequel, and uh, 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 um, the Crusader one. The Last Crusade is another sequel, and then you
Right,
have the
right, right.
Crystal Skull, and
Again,
these are all
no,
sequels.
I would agree with you, Sam, because that just illustrates my point. I would agree with you because they were only written or produced or made after the success of the first. It wasn't one story already written, and then they filmed each movie. Just like go back to Empire Strikes Back. They're different things. Empire
But
Strikes
both,
Back, the whole
but
things were written, and then they
but both fit into the definition of what a sequel is. That's what I'm
right,
trying
but
to say.
but again, like I said, it goes back to intent. It's kind of like what was the intent of it? It was it.
Well, yeah,
I know we're just talking like we're just splitting hairs here, right?
you always want to make more money. Everybody wants to make more money. So but that's what I'm saying. I don't think the sequels would have necessarily been made if they didn't think they were going to make money out of it. So having that be one of the, I don't know, one of the uh, hallmarks of what a sequel is seems superfluous because it's a sequel if it continues the storyline or if it continues the idea of that IP. The intent doesn't come into the picture. It on whether on the deciding factor of whether it's a sequel or not. It intent has nothing to do with it, in my opinion. It's just, is it a continuation of the story? Yes. Is it a continuation of the idea of the IP? Yes. Then it's a sequel. Who cares about the intent?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we just differ on that point, right? I mean, no, we do again because, like I said, I think again, I just go back. Empire Strikes Back. You say three, four. We're all written at one time. Lord of the
Sure.
Rings was all written at one time. The Bible
Yeah.
was written at one time. So different
Sure.
parts of it, I don't consider sequels because it's just one story and they're different parts of the
Yeah.
same story. But if you write something and then stop, and then it's like, oh wait, oh that was really good. Let me write another one. It's like you're writing a different. It's a different, sure it's the same story, but I don't know. Anyway, we're probably talking about something that's just worthless anyway. But anyway, let's go on about expansions and all that other stuff.
No, I think it's good. I don't. I'm
But it,
not. I got not getting mad. I'm just talking, man.
no, 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 I
So
know, but it would be good to see what people think, right? So please, in the comments,
sure.
let us
Yeah.
know what your thoughts about
Mhm.
this topic are, because it'd be
Mhm.
kind of good. But anyway, so continue what you were asking me about. Yes,
Okay, so the idea here is that we're transferring this kind of that we're kind of we're not shoehorning it because I do think it's a valid segue into expansions. There because I mean some games don't get expansions,
right.
um, and we really wish they should. Other games get tons of expansions as they're coming out. They're like, oh, yeah, we created this base game and then we created these 5 expansions and you can buy them all at once on our new Kickstarter. They're not really expansions at that point, right?
Correct. Yeah.
They're just game and you want to make more money. That's the thing. So it's like, what is the determining and again, this is totally subjective. I don't think we can come up with an objective thing here, but what is the difference between a good valid expansion and what we would consider that's just a money grab?
Okay. Well. Okay. Again, there's a couple of layers here, but I'll give you my first definition just to answer that question.
Okay.
My sort of definition of a good one would be is if objectively you would say, and I know Tom says this a lot, that I will never play this game again without the expansion.
Sure.
So to me, that's the one deciding factor where it almost becomes part of the game. One quick example I can give you is Ark Nova with Marine Worlds, right?
Hmm.
Because it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like now that's sort of just part of the game to me now.
Sure.
It's just like if you're playing like, oh, let's play Ark Nova, it's like it's assumed that Marine World is just in it. You see what I mean? So to
Right.
me,
Sure.
to answer your question, that is sort of like a good, valid expansion because it just fits. It like you don't
Yeah.
even kind of know it's an expansion, right?
Right. Yep. No, I totally agree with that. I personally, I don't care if I play Eric Nova ever again. Who cares? Whatever expansion is up there, it seems like work to me.
Uh,
But my placeholder for what a good expansion or expansions should do to a game is Champions of Midgard with the Valhalla and Dark Mountains expansions. Valhalla and Dark Mountains expansions, I believe, both came out at about the same time, and they both do things that I think are just like you said about Arc Nova and Marine Worlds. It adds to a game that now seems like it is inseparable
Mm,
from the game for
yep.
me. For example, with the Valhalla expansion, um, it used to be in the base game that when your Vikings died on those journeys, they're just gone. They it, you don't get to do anything now. But what Valhalla has done is it has given you when those Vikings die, the kind of Viking they are will produce a different type of a token that you can now use in the Valhalla expansion to purchase special abilities, more ways to score points, whatever it might be. And to me, that was like logical progression. Vikings, when they die, they go to Valhalla
Right.
and they are still useful. That's perfect. Now, what the Dark Mountains did, it wasn't as inseparable, but it still gave you more places in a worker placement game. It gave you more places to go to send your Vikings to go get more points and to go defeat more things. And so I just thought that those two expansions were like absolutely yes. This is in my opinion, it's one of the most perfect expansions that has been created for a game because of exactly what you said.
Yeah.
It becomes inseparable.
Right. So I think that's one of the first criterias, I think we both agree on that, that
Yeah,
makes a good expansion is when it seamlessly just becomes, for all
part of
intents
the
and
base game.
purposes, for the future
Yep.
part of the game. Like if
Yep.
they become inseparable, you need to play. Now,
Mhm.
another time expansions I think are good also is, just off the bat, because I'm looking at it right there, is Ultimate Railroads,
Mm.
with Russian railroads, because German railroads was an expansion. But
Mhm.
to me, it it makes it kind of a different game. I mean, it's the
Mm.
same game, you know what I mean? But it's not
Yeah.
adding. I mean, I guess people who I guess you'd have to know. Do you know Russian railroads well, or and the
Not
German
well,
expansion?
but I know of it.
Okay.
I know
See,
basic.
yeah, I'm trying to think of maybe another game I can come up. But anyway, people who know it, whether you agree with me or not, but I think you'll understand what I'm saying. It just makes it. It's sort of because I'm like I could play either one, right? I'm like,
Sure.
oh, let's
Yeah.
just play German railroads.
Yeah.
Russian railroads with the German. That's a different game than so. I think they're good in that aspect because it gives you sort of a whole new feel of the game. Um,
Mm.
so to me, that's another way that expansions are good. Um,
Would you say though that those are and I'm not familiar with it. Those are standalone expansions though. You don't need the base game in order to play the
no,
others.
they are
They
not.
aren't. They
No.
are not.
So
Okay.
again, you still need. It's still it's one of those kind of things. If you know Russian railroads, it'll take you
Mm.
5 minutes to learn German railroads, whatever. But
Sure.
it
Okay.
just feels like a different game. So to me, that's just another good aspect. So I don't know. So then I guess we need to talk about what are the bad expansions, right? What we would
Right.
consider not good expansions. Um,
Mhm.
well, here's a one I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with is Splendor. Remember it
Huh.
came out with cities, and I think it had 4 of them in it, right?
Sure.
And I
I don't
thought,
remember. I played Splendor once and was like, don't need to play that game again. Bye.
oh, okay. I know a lot of people have that same feeling. But yeah, they're so I think expansions when they come up in people that never get used, right? You're
Mm.
like, this is just an add-on, it muddies it up. And I just think that it's clear that they're not good. And a lot of these Kickstarters, because we have a lot of them up at the warehouse, but like Solomon Kane, I'll pick that one up. I don't know if you know that one or whatever, or those big
Do I
like,
not know? Dude, I used to work with Mythic. Come on. I
oh,
know
that's Myth again. Oh, I
Solomon
didn't
Kane.
know. Okay, but it's like there's like 8 boxes or like whatever. It's like those are just ridiculous.
I gave that away. Let's see. We do monthly giveaways every once in a while on the channel, and I gave that away, and I shipped out, and Oh my gosh, it was so much money to ship that game out. Oh no, I didn't. I gave it away. Somebody was doing Extra Life campaign or something like that. Extra Life fundraiser, and so I donated that copy of my copy of Solomon Kane to them. And dude, so many boxes, and I absolutely agree with you. There are some. It's like this expansion box is as big as the base game.
So let me ask you something, Sam. S-
Why?
Since you have familiarity with this game, and this is a totally, I'm not trying to, be sarcastic or whatever. Totally
Sure.
honest question. Um, we'll just use Solomon Kane as an example.
Okay.
Have you ever, or do you know people who literally play those games, Solomon Kane and any others on GameFound, Kickstarter, those, the same ones we're talking about,
Sure.
with everything?
Well, the way that Solomon Kane is made, you don't play with everything. If you're
Okay.
going to play with one of the expansions, you have to have the most of the components that come in the base game. But with Solomon Kane, it has each expansion has its own boards, it has its own storybooks, it
Oh, I
has its
see.
own
Okay.
paragraphs, it has its own characters and all of that kind of stuff. So you're using parts of the base game and you're playing that expansion, which is a different story in
Oh,
the Solomon Kane universe.
uh-huh.
So
Well, you know what
it's
I'm talking about, though. But there are
yes.
those ones. Have you ever seen with people use like everything with these big mini games and all that kind of stuff? Like
Well,
I've never seen anybody use everything.
right, and I think most of the time, because I think this is kind of going into the territory, because there's a few territories when we talk about expansions. You talk about I'm going to categorize them as a regular expansion, which is something that is going to go into the base box. You're not going to have to store an extra box or anything like that, and it was kind of meant to be there. Or it just happened to be that it fits in the base box. That's a regular expansion for me. Then you have what we mentioned earlier, the standalone expansions, which are this is another box that is an expansion to this base game, but you don't need the base game to play it. So that's a little bit of a different bear. Then you have other expansions that are modular expansions, and I think modular expansions can be um, a rather large umbrella that will, I think, over that will hold things like um, Solomon Kane. Although calling each of those big boxes a module seems like a stretch, but I think it still fits with the definition of a modular expansion. But I think modular expansions um, are usually where people get into trouble with adding too much to their base game. And for example, I played Terraforming Mars. Used to play Terraforming Mars base game. Didn't necessarily enjoy it, but I didn't hate it either. We had the at a Dice Tower retreat one time. We had the idea to play with all of the expansions at that point that were available for Terraforming Mars, and we set out on that. And 4 hours later, we finished. And I will never play Terraforming Mars again because that's just and again, I know that's a little bit unfair because you did something that you probably weren't supposed to do according to the designers. And many of the designers will say that in their rule books, especially if they come out with modular expansions. They'll say, you can use this module, and this module together, but don't combine them with this one and this one. And if you use this one, don't use the second one. If you use these two, don't use the other three. They'll do stuff like that. Of course, probably not that verbose, but you get the idea. And that's where I think you run into the trouble of adding too much because rarely have I played a game with all of its expansion material and come away loving it.
Right. Or
Um,
even played it with it at all, right? Like, and that's another
sure.
like, you can probably look behind you, and there are probably games that you have an expansion or 2, but you
Mhm.
never use them, right? You just always play the base.
Because I'm always teaching games, and usually the expansions will add some type of nuance,
Right, that's
possibly
true too.
more complexity or something like that that just doesn't fit well in a teaching situation. So, yeah, with me, I have a lot of games that I actively don't use the expansions when I'm teaching it. I have some games like that one right there where I always use the expansions, even when I'm teaching the brand new games, because what each expansion adds isn't that much. For
Right.
example, for that one specifically, we add in the mythics.
And he's talking about
Is
Blood Rage. If people are just listening to the podcast, yeah.
That's correct. Blood Rage. This one right here. Yes. I know people might be just listening. Anyway, the Mystics are one expansion, and then the Gods are another.
Hmm.
And so both of those add a teensy weensy bit to the actual game. The Gods add a singular rule to the province that the god is in. The Mystics simply give you two more miniatures with that could have special ability or that will have special abilities that are different than everybody else. Those are easy peasy, in my opinion. If I'm teaching somebody and I think they can handle Blood Rage, they'll be able to handle these two expansions on the first go. So I usually take that, but more often than not, I will leave expansions in the box if I'm teaching a game, just because they more often than not just add nuances that are unnecessary for learning how to play the game for the first time, or they add complexity that I don't necessarily want for a first time.
Right. Yeah. So I guess there are a lot of different factors why people would or would not want to use expansions.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just one of those kind of things that's experimentation, right?
Right.
A lot of them you would have to try. I mean, Terraforming Mars you brought up. I'm not a Terraforming Mars person at all. But again, and correct me if I'm wrong, and people can comment about it. I thought Prelude was sort of like the Marine world, like I'm talking about Ark Nova. Isn't that
Mm.
one that's just part of the game now? Or was
I
there
I
I don't
guess I don't know. I've literally expunged my memories of everything terraforming Mars.
Terrified. Yeah, but I
'Cause-
think I, I think one of them was like that too, where people are just like, oh, yeah, it's just part of the game now, or it should be. So yeah, that's a good indication. But yeah, it's one of those kind of things. I'm usually not an expansion type person. I
Mm.
usually just like the base game because um it kind of goes back to our discussion about sequels in essence. And it's kind of like I just like, okay, the designer, they, took whatever time, they put it together, they built it, they did this, and that was their intent. And it's pure, it's good. And it's
Mm.
sort of like adding something more, a sequel or an expansion, however you want to refer to it.
Right.
Like, what's your intent? Why is it necessary? Wasn't the first one just that you wrote or you produced? Wasn't that just good enough? Why are you adding the sequel, this expansion? What's the
Yeah.
point?
Yeah. No, I get it. Sometimes, I mean, publishers got to make money, right? And
Of
so,
course they
if the
do.
designer, if the designer has a good idea, should they continue to put out or good ideas? Let's make it plural. Should the designer continue to put out expansions? I think, yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because at the end of the day, um, expansions are I mean, if we want to cut everything else out, they are cash grabs, right? It's just another opportunity to make more money for an IP that you already have in existence, without having to figure out how to, design and develop and playtest a brand new game. In essence, I guess all expansions are just cash grabs. But at the if we go if a designer is having good ideas and the publisher recognizes the fact that they have good ideas, I think they probably should, because the
Oh, of
people who
course.
love that game are going to love it,
Yep.
and they're going to love the fact that you continue to support the game that they love. Um, but if it, and I think this is probably falls on the shoulders of the publisher a little bit more, or the own the owning of the problem falls on the publisher's shoulders, in that if you can sense, or if you feel like the designer's just phoning this stuff in and they're not really trying to make it as good as it should be, then yeah, I think you probably have to axe that idea, because you're going to water down your product rather than upgrade it. And I think that's the danger of expansions, in my opinion, or just putting out willy-nilly expansions. You're watering down your product rather than actually improving it.
Oh no, I would agree with that
So
100%.
I think what we'll do is because I do want to talk about second editions. I do want to talk about second editions of games when they're necessary. Are they necessary? Should the publisher just move on, or should they seek to, maybe fix some problems that they have found? This is a conversation that we started, that I was having with my buddy the other day on Memorial Day while we were up there. When is second editions, and we were also having it on one of my streams as well. When are second editions warranted? When are they kind of a spit in the face to the people who bought your first edition? So I think we'll say that for next week, if that's okay, or next time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, you're talking about second editions and re-implementations also, right? Or you talk about that as well? Oh, yeah, because there's a lot of those. No, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely a good topic to come up. So again, folks, anybody who's listening or watching, please in the comments, let us know your thoughts on sequels, because Sam and I differ, right? So let us know
which side you're gonna fall on.
Or expansions, follow-ups, all that kind of things. Because again, it's just, I enjoy talking about these things, right? Because it's what we do, it's what we love, it's our hobby, and it's nice to hear different opinions, people's different thoughts, all those kind of things. Because now what's going to happen, we're going to end the stream, I'm going to go and I'm going to be like, so what was he trying to get at? What were his I'm going to be thinking about this stuff. So it's just
you're gonna go back and you're gonna say, man, I was so wrong, I can't believe I was so off.
That ain't gonna happen.
That's great.
Yeah, but no, Sam, it's fantastic as always talking to you. And again, like I said, I'm going to go get back in shape, lose some weight, get back on my track, get my head straight, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really looking forward. Bro. Yeah, to my fitness resort, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys and gals, take it easy.
Yep. And for next time, I'm Tim from Las Vegas.
And I'm Sam from the Pacific Northwest. See you on the flip side.
Bye, everybody.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.